Hello, good afternoon for one more session of Grandma's March. And today we have a very special guest. She's from Croatia, and you will meet her soon. We share, I think, our work in the world, sacred work, is inspiring our grandmothers. I've been to her beautiful land already, and she's a wise, special woman that I want to introduce. Her name is Irena. So, welcome, Irena.
Thank you. Thank you for invitation, Monica. So good to see you.
Oh, it's so good. It's been a while, and it's always so good to talk to you and hear your stories. And hopefully, soon I can be there in your
Yes,
beautiful Terra
definitely.
Meera,
That's the plan.
Croatia. It is.
Indeed.
Oh, so as you know, Irina, what we are here today is to celebrate, as always, the grandmothers, and especially because the month of March we celebrate International Women's Day, Women's History Month, and for sure we both share our inspiration in our grandmothers, how much we honor them, and how much you do that through all you have done in your work and your life. And I connected to you through that in so many ways. So before the idea today is to have a very informal conversation, for you to tell us the story about your ancestors, the connection with your grandmother, how your work is all related to that, and all the amazing things that you're doing right now with Terra Meera, because it's amazing and everybody has to know about that out there. And also, how can we connect the work that you're doing with the theme that we are being reminded this year that it is time for us to, as human, as society, as planet, to remember how to play, connect, and celebrate. And I know Terra Mera has a lot of that connection to nature, connection to the land, to the ancestors, celebrate our life, and definitely a beautiful place to play. And so I welcome you. And before we start our conversation, I'm gonna do a brief introduction of you so everybody know a little bit more of Irena. And Irena, well, originally from Croatia, and she's gonna tell us more about her story. But she's the foundress and visionary of is a rural hub called Terra Meera, a center for regeneration and human development in Croatia that everybody has to go there because it's beautiful. And she is an acclaimed academic and researcher in the fields of sustainable development through community and individual empowerment. Irena firmly believes in connecting theory with practice, and her 20 years of experience has led her to express her passion for social justice and human development in numerous projects on economic and social transformation that have taken her all around the world, from Croatia, her home, to New Zealand and the South Pacific, to China and India, everywhere. Her writings on the transmodern paradigm shift have inspired making of a documentary movie about change makers called Transmodernity. We want to hear more about that too, in which she also features together with her daughter, which is amazing, as one of change makers. Before reconnecting back with her roots in Croatia, she works as a professor at the Environmental Sciences Department of Wageningen. Wageningen? I don't know how to say that. Is that right?
Wageningen, Wageningen.
Okay, there you go. That's
It's a
difficult.
Dutch word.
University.
Don't miss it.
There you go. University in the Netherlands, where she gained a reputation as passionate and soulful teacher and colleague. Currently, she collaborates with various institutions, universities, and NGOs on the sustainable development of islands and coastal. So, welcome, Irena. It's a pleasure to have you here. And now it is with you for you to share your beautiful story with us.
Thank you, Monica. Such a lovely, warm introduction. Not just for the way how you, what you listed there, but just the way how you express your really beautiful personal warmth to really give more sense of who I am as a human rather than as all this what you listed. So, which is I think really important in
Oh, yes.
everything that we do. to have that human touch and connection at that kind of heart level. And this has been very special since I met you and all of the Shakti sisters.
Yeah,
Not actually long ago. That was in June 2019.
I know.
So hopefully we will
Everybody
all.
was there in Croatia, right?
Yeah, yeah, indeed. And it was very significant gathering. Maybe I will start the story from from the end rather than from the beginning. Maybe
Great.
that could be to start the story about Terra Meera, and then to lead it to the story of my grandmother. I think that might be, I always leave it, how I tell my story, how I feel inspired in the moment. So now it inspired me to begin the story actually to that moment when we were all on the top of that hill,
Mm,
which is actually quite well restored heritage site, on this lookout,
mm.
not far from the land where now Terra Meera has been developing for the last few years. So it was in June 2019.
Yes.
It was a part of this woman leadership program, for Shakti leadership program, from University of San Diego, guided and run by Nilima Bhatt, and 15 or so of participants, graduates of that program, came for the graduation tour to Croatia to celebrate their projects, to present their projects, and to have a nice kind of gathering meeting in Croatia that was combining indeed celebration of of life and
Yes.
connections, friendship and sisterhood. So and that gathering and that tour actually connected two key parts of my story: the land where I am now and the island which you all visited,
Oh,
which
yes.
my grandmother's story.
Yes.
So, but we will begin with Terra Meera, which is the land where I now speak, to the other side of the world. Thank you, technology, for that. And as I was saying and describing, as we were standing on the top of that hill, I already knew about this land. It's around 10,000 square meters, so it's 1 hectare. I'm not sure how it goes in acres.
Mhm.
And I was showing to you that this is the land that I was planning to buy, and where we are going to situate this Center for Regeneration and Human Development, for development of human potential, to be precise, and how I discovered this abandoned village, which I always had the vision that I wanted to find somewhere, a rural area which is totally abandoned and needs to be breathed a new life, to really embody everything what I learned in my globe trotting around the world in all of the projects, and where I could see what we do to our Mother Earth, and how we are slowly, or rather now quite fast, destroying her precious body and her generosity that she gives us with the food and the water and everything what we need to sustain life of all species, including humans.
Yeah.
As we were standing there, I remember you did a crown made of some branches, and Lilima put this branch around my head, and you said I was going to be a steward of this land. And
There you
then,
go.
yeah, you remember it was a very
Yeah.
special. We did a ritual, and Lilima is very good in
Oh,
performing
yeah.
these rituals. And then, indeed, 2 months later, I signed a contract, bought this land, and we started the project.
Oh, wow.
To make it more precise in terms of the location and all that, it's in Dalmatian region of Croatia, so it's on the coast, but I'm not immediately by the coast. It's 25 meters away from the
Mhm.
islands where I grew up. But it's very close to quite famous national park Krka, which is famous for the Krka Falls. And by the
Yeah.
way, important fact that Šibenik, which is a nearby town where you actually all stayed
Yes.
for a few days, was the first city in the world that actually got Nikola Tesla alternate electricity.
Wow, I
Before
didn't
he
know that.
let, yeah, before he let the electricity from Niagara Falls, Tesla was in connection with the at the time very progressive mayor of city of Šibenik, and he released the electricity into Šibenik. So Šibenik was actually the first town in the
Wow.
world that
And it's a
got.
beautiful town, by the way. Wow.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
very, very gorgeous. So we are here in this village, 25 kilometers away from Šibenik, which used to be a very, very fertile rural valley full of people, farmers producing agricultural products. But it sits in the area that was affected at the time of the Croatian Civil War. Yugoslavian war, and in this region mostly Serbian people lived. So at the time of the civil war, they mostly left to live in Serbia. So this village that used to be more than 1,000 people came down to only 40 or 50 of mostly older people. So something that it has that it was really flourishing before the war, it got totally abandoned. And while the soil sits there as full of fertility, no one is looking after these fields. Now in the last few years, some of the people started to come, at least younger people, just a few times a year to work on the land, on the easiest type of crop of olives and almond trees, so at least that they can look after a little bit after the land, but no one comes back to village. So here I am. I found this beautiful place that was in the ownership of one old man with 7 daughters.
Wow.
And these 7 daughters all decided to sell when he passed away. So it was a beautiful family farm, and he died here, and then they decided to sell it. So it's we can also, if you can share the screen, maybe to watch the short clip and the video, which is going to give us a bit of the visual presentation. Maybe I can stop at this point. We can show it, and then it is right on the homepage of Terra Meera project. So let's look
Okay,
at it.
let's do that. Beautiful. So everybody knows this beautiful, powerful land.
I remember my grandmother's skirt and hiding under it when we would dry the figs. I remember the sweet yellow peaches and the tiny bitter cherries. I remember the olive trees. This place used to be full of life, full of famines that lived from the land. It was the valley that fed all central Croatia. The war and mass tourism changed a lot of things around here, and now it is mostly abandoned. Nowadays, the food comes in trucks, not from the ground. The tiny cherries and the sweet yellow peaches are to be found only in a few lucky gardens. My name is Irena, and I came back to find the forgotten trees of my childhood. Terra Meera is a center for regeneration. Here, we want to plant the beginnings of a native fruit forest. The knowledge is still present, and we are catching it just like a sweet, ripe fig before it's gone, to preserve it. It is about creating a healthy community, regenerating not only the land, but also the village, bringing life back to this place.
After years of teaching and studying sustainability worldwide, I wanted to walk the talk. I realized that the richness of our biodiversity is disappearing from beneath our feet. That is why we are planting these trees and creating a seed bank. I invite you to be part of this. Plant a tree with us and come to taste the fruits. Bring your ideas for workshops, residencies, working actions. Become a creator in this story. We will provide the fertile soil. Each tree is a chance.
Oh, what a delight. I just so many memories of that beautiful place.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, this video was actually then made few months after I got the land. I started to renovate just this little house in which the old man lived. Then the COVID hit us, and then I got three
Yes.
beautiful young people from Berlin, my daughter and two filmmakers who came and decided to spend lockdown time in the countryside. So we couldn't use the lockdown for better purpose.
Right. That was perfect.
Yeah, and then we made this video. We did a crowdfunding campaign. We planted more than 200 trees. We now work on regeneration of the land. There's one more person who joined us who bought a piece of land next to me who also wants to plant the trees. I have been having some volunteers, some friends, guests visiting, who buy the products from not necessarily very local community because I don't have many neighbors, but from around the area. I do have a beautiful neighbors, one beautiful grandma that you could see in a video that I collect a lot of
Yes.
knowledge from her, who is a shepherd and looks after her sheep. And she has chicken and turkeys, and I always get fresh eggs from her. So
Oh,
it's a
that's
true
good.
delight to be here. I mean, the process of developing and regenerating the land, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of time. When we say the native fruit forest, that means we will see it only in 7 or 8 years' time properly. Now the trees are very
Wow.
young. You
That's a
can't
long
plant,
time.
old trees and all that, but we prepared the land. We composted it with organic compost and the manure from the sheep that I get from my neighbors, because out of the sheep manure, they created the compost. So, it's a slow process, but it's very enjoyable for the fact that we do something, that I do something at least for one piece of land. And I believe if each of us could do something, that we can regenerate our Mother Earth, in the way how, going back to our grandmother, my grandmother used to do. We can do a lot for our Mother Earth, given that this is the month where we celebrate women and mothers and grandmothers. I can now connect it to the story of my grandmother. As you could see in that video, I start with that most vivid memory of my childhood is this beautiful long black skirt she was wearing, because in our culture, when a woman would get married, and if anyone would die in that family, it could be parents-in-law or someone older or cousin or whoever, brother, sister, it doesn't matter, the woman will start to wear black, and it would be a long black skirt with the waist and would go all the way down to their ankles. And I remember she would sit in the corner when she was not in the land. She would sit in the corner and she would weave the wool from the wolf that we would cut from the sheep, because at that time everything was still very rural life before the tourism came. And then whenever my mom would not be happy with me, I would run away from my mom, and then I would go straight under my grandma's skirt, and I would hide underneath. And because a woman at that time were not swimming, or it was not even imaginable that they would show their legs and sunbathe on the beach. I remember her legs, because I was tiny. I was maybe 3, I could really hide under the skirt. And my mom would come and ask my grandma, where are you? Where are you? Where is she? Where is... And my grandma would say, I have no idea. She would really hide under that skirt. And I remember these beautiful white legs, because they never saw the sun. Never. It was just unbelievable. She was, at that time, maybe around 55 or 60. And I remember her legs being so beautifully white and soft and all that. And I was always going with her. I remember, always holding this skirt. And then as I was growing next to her, I could see how much she loved the land. She would get up very early in the morning, because in Croatia, especially in Dalmatia, we have when you start to work on the land in springtime, and in summer when you harvest and you need to water, we have a very hot weather, so you have to work in the morning. So she would start at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then all of the work would be done by 9 or so, because you don't work on the land when the sun is too strong. And we had our little garden around the house, but we also, in Dalmatia, we have a lot of plots of land which are not connected to your house. They are kind of elsewhere, with the olive trees or fig trees. And then she would work and go and work around this and these trees, and I would always come with her. And I remember how much she loved it, and her hands would be so hard, as opposed to her,
the legs.
the legs. Her hands were so harsh and hard, and nails were full of the soil. And so as I took off from that village, of course, as I grew up into a teenager, I was helping her. I remember also when we were collecting the figs, she had some nets where she would dry these figs. We would need to press them, and then we would dry them in the sun, and then we had the sweets in the winter. So I was helping her with all these things. But then, of course, when I came into my teenage time and going to university, I went up north. And then you want to become more modern, and you want to go to university and all that. And that's what I did. I went up north to do my university degree, my master's degree, which I did in economics and management. And then the war hit us. And I decided to leave. At the time, still was Yugoslavia, but became Croatia as an independent country, as we are today. And we went, me and my now ex-husband, and our little daughter, who was 2.5. I was 27. I left for New Zealand.
Wow.
And then in New Zealand, I started my PhD, and this is where I became very passionate about ecology, as my PhD was in human geography, very much focused on connecting the economics, culture, society, physical geography, locality, ecology, which then slowly developed into the interest of sustainable development. And this is how then I started to do more and more research, and everything what you described there, they were mostly research projects or conferences where I would speak about my experiences, my research experiences, and so on. I lived there for 12 years in New Zealand. And then from New Zealand, I moved to Wageningen University when I was teaching the master's degree. Specifically focused on sustainable development. So maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm talking too much in the monologue. Maybe you want to interrupt me and ask me some
No, because I'm
questions.
delighted here with the story because I love it. And no, 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 nothing. I think yes, it's like we want to know how you go back and like why it's like all
Yeah,
this international
yeah,
woman
the whole
PhD and
cycle.
everything, right?
Yeah.
The whole cycle, how you go back to your roots. Yes,
Mhm.
yes,
Yes,
yes.
I actually wrote a paper about that whole journey, and I was using the analogy and the symbolism of Alchemist book by Paulo
Mm,
Coelho. You
yes.
know, about the famous story of Santiago, who was a shepherd and who then was imagining he will find his gold. You know, the alchemical.
Uh-huh.
Sort of element somewhere far and so on, and how the whole sort of rationale of the story was that the whole point of him was to go through that whole journey in order to realize that alchemy was back under the olive tree he left, but he would not realize unless he did the whole of the journey, and that
Mhm.
the whole life and the journey he did, the people he met, experiences he had made him aware, of where the alchemy sits. But obviously, without life experience, we cannot realize that.
We don't see it.
So in that article, I'm also adding a bit of a feminist twist to that, because I'm a bit tired of the fact that a lot of these books and Greek mythology, it's always about hero's
I
journey. Was it
know, that's
about
good.
the hero's
We
journey?
need
And we all know that Nilima is very much, kind of popularizing the idea of heroine's journey. Although I also read Murdoch. I'm sorry, I didn't.
that's fine.
Yeah, I should have done this before.
No worries. That's
Um,
okay.
so and we know how heroine's journey is so important, because the woman's journey is a bit different from the male's journey. We know that we go into this kind of mythological world, and we have a more evolutionary impulses, and it's not as masculine, and it's much more, we have a different needs in the society as it is. So in this particular article, where I'm describing my whole life story, I am actually a bit critical of the fact that it is always men who have the freedom to go and travel, and it's the woman who always holds the
Same.
whole. So, and in this particular story, it's Fatima, and
Mm.
so I'm saying this is a woman's heroine's journey, who left this little village, this little island, to adventure to the world, first to the university up north in the same country, and then all the way to the other side of the world, then back to Europe. And then when I moved to Netherlands, I started to run the project um, uh, on specifically, as you were saying, on economic social transformation
Mhm.
and sustainable development, because Netherlands was always very proactive with a lot of these projects, and Croatia was at that time, there was in 2005 when I started, and it was already talked that Croatia eventually will access a European Union, and we started to apply for some projects. I wanted to connect my work with Croatia. I really wanted to do some, not just the research, but project development, as that was part of also my work at Wageningen University. And then I got the first big project worth of €500,000 granted by Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs to set up a center for sustainable development, on education for sustainable development
Wow.
in the village where I grew up. So that was a quite big comeback, if you wish,
Yeah.
back to my village, to bring this project and to raise the awareness of local people, because we often romanticize the perspective of local people. They know better, but unfortunately, um, in Croatia, what happened with the mass tourism. A lot of people left everything what my grandmother was doing. They forgot about agriculture. It was too much hard work. And mass tourism brought easy money. You just rent apartments and, rent your boats. In the winter, there are fishing boats. In the summer, there are tourist boats. So easy money, and people forgot about the land and all that. And I brought with those projects more of the awareness that our future lies in generating our land and our agriculture, and making tourism more sustainable, because it is still not, but at that time was going even more crazy. So I was more and more connecting back to my place, but with this, as I explained it, transmodern perspective, because I got a lot of resistance when I came back to village, and everyone was asking me, so now you want us to take us back to your grandmother's past? Would you like to row
to
on
the old times,
all day, to Kornati, and now you to this national park now, which is beautiful, and there's a lot of islands, and we visited that too.
Yes.
And now you can go there by boat in 1 hour and a half, and my grandmother had to row all day. And I said, no, that's not the point. I'm not saying we have to go back in the past and forget everything what modernity has brought us, but we need to take the best of modernity, to be critical what is wrong with modernity in terms of some of the destructive impact on the environment, and create this what I call transmodern solution. So we are not as postmodernity. I mean, that's a bit scientific discussion, but postmodernity was very much critical of everything of modernity, and then we are making everything relativistic, and we are too much in the kind of denial of everything what modernity brought. And so transmodernity is actually going through, transcending modernity and postmodernity into a new way of moving forward, integrating the new perspectives that postmodernity has brought us in terms of critical thinking, of challenging the Eurocentric sort of colonial perspective, and but taking the best of it and then bringing something forward in a way that is going to benefit the whole global community. So that's how I started. I managed to do some progress in my village. I had a vision that I would make the island the first self-sustainable island by 2020. But it was very difficult because local community didn't really respond to that very well, because they thought that at that time sustainable development was still totally unknown, and they thought it was all about ecology, and they will not be allowed to do anything economical, and I'm going to stop all of the tourism. And so there was, although they opened enough, but they were not fast enough to. So now I do get reflections where my, sort of my villagers, my people from the island say, we wish that we listened to you then. Now
right.
Embracing these ideas.
They regret, yes.
Because now they have become popular enough, they cannot ignore them anymore. But then at the time, we could have been a true avant-garde and progressive community. But anyhow, we still have this Center for Education, Sustainable Development. Some things have improved. It's not ideal. Tourism is still a very big business, especially in the properties, with the sea view. Croatia, even this summer, not in 2020, but 2021 was almost back to the same tourism season as in 2019. Crazy. So crazy tourism boom. So there is too much money in it. And I realized it was very difficult to work on any, there is hardly any rural land left that can be regenerated and planted with agriculture. So I decided to move just 20 kilometers a little bit back into the hinterland. And even though this land where I am, it's not my grandmother's land, I feel this is all very much connected. It's the same Dalmatian spirit and
energy spirit. Yes.
And then and I remember when my grandma as our main produce was at that time olive oil and dry figs and fish and whatever. The woman from this area who had a more agricultural products and some meat and all of that, they would exchange. At that time, it was a barter trade, and so I have also some romantic memories about this region that used to produce and feed, as I said in video, to feed most of this Dalmatian region in this part. So I really rejoice in the fact that now I can honor that love for the land that my grandmother has shown so much, and that I'm sure that she's kind of looking at me from somewhere from the the universe. However, we conceptualize that spiritual world, and she would be very happy to see her granddaughter being so happy to be on the land, and while at the same time turning into educational ground to indeed to regenerate not only the land but body, mind, and spirit. We hope that we will make it, a center for a Shakti center for developing, some educational programs for Shakti leadership. We will have events like we are going to have now soon in May, celebrating one of our Shakti sisters' 60th birthday to celebrate. She donated 60 trees to Terra Meera that we celebrate each year of her life. So the vision is for Terra Meera to become a sort of a meeting ground for change makers, for people, for nature lovers. My daughter wants to do with some of her friends some art residences, and so that it becomes a place where we nurture all aspects of indeed human development potential, and and we really connect to one to another in a beautiful natural environment, where Terra Meera sits. So
that is so beautiful. I just love like all the circle that you did, like really coming from Croatia and meeting your grandma since a kid, and seeing her and feeling her and seeing her like working on the land, and then you go to the world out and conquer a lot of things and live internationally. Of course, you had to leave also because of the war, which is not good. But yeah, at the end, you end up being this amazing professional PhD and goes to universities and go back to your amazing land and bring all this love and caring and reminding the people to connect to the land and to the knowledge is there and we're losing it, and we have to regenerate and transform, and it's all about the message of our ancestors of going back to the roots and going back to the land and connect to nature again and connect to community. And that's what is happening in Terra Meera. And that's why I wanted you, like, oh, you need to tell this story, because it's all about what I'm being inspired and called about to talk, because ancestors are calling us for that. And Terra Meera is that space where people can play with art or with rituals and ceremonies and gather together, celebrate birthdays, celebrate life, and regenerate the land, connect to the land, and so many beautiful things. Oh, what you are doing is just like magic. It is.
Yeah, thank you, Monica. Yeah, and it would be very difficult to do that work without the support of international community, I have to say.
I know.
Being such an international person, I need this, what I call my global positionality. I'm global and local at the same time, and because interestingly enough, as I explained just through the experience with my village locally, it's often more difficult to get that acknowledgement and that support, because they are much more suspicious. You know how they say you cannot preach in your own village. So that was the main difficulty, and the challenge to kind of where you try to convince local people, that this is good for them, and they, so just to kind of bridge this gap of mistrust or not enough of knowledge. While my international community knows what I speak about,
Yes.
and then this whole campaign where a lot of people donated trees, because I'm also on very, very limited, funds. And so I did it very courageously, to be honest. I jumped into this without thinking, what does it really mean in terms of operational demand, which I now feel very much. So we need to add that to a beautiful story where we do plan and celebrate that. Behind it, it's also always, there is a lot of sweat and hard work, and especially being on the land, there's a lot to look after. But it's very much, learning and enjoying, and sometimes not enjoying, and that's okay too.
Yeah, true. That's
all,
part of it, life. Yeah.
yeah, indeed. So
Oh, wow. So, yeah, I definitely invite everybody to support what you're doing, donate the trees, visit Terra Meera. And I wish, like you said at the beginning, if each of us will do just a little piece or something, or our piece of land, and regenerate that, imagine the difference. Imagine if we have so many arenas and so many Terra Meeras everywhere, how all will be so different. So, really, thank you for what you're doing. And I invite everybody. We have the site there, so you can get to know more about your project, your land, your hub, rural hub, which is amazing. And I hope to see you soon, because I can wait. It's
yeah,
amazing land.
I'm sure we will. We had this Shakti party
I
in now
know.
7 weeks.
Yes,
So
yes.
So
Well,
I'm very happy that I will see most of you again, and we will definitely celebrate, our, sort of reconciliation, and and all that. It will be so beautiful after all this separation all around the world and
I
everything what we
know.
went through. And connecting through Zoom only, that we finally will be able to hug each other. So
Right, that's the best part. Like that's so needed, and that's why that connection is so needed right now in the world, because we really need it between us, between the land, and with everything.
yes,
Thank you
and
for.
we need to raise this positive,
Yes.
view of the future. Our younger generations need it. There are too many dystopian, sort of pessimistic views of the nuclear war, of this, of that, or technology taking us over. Planet is
Mm,
dying. It's terrible. I mean, to be a young person, so we need to tell them, no, no, they are wise. Senior people, we are doing everything. We will save the planet.
the
We will,
planet.
do everything
Yeah.
in our capacity what we can, and they need that. We should not feed, as I say, to feed the collective field of fear, but we
No.
need, to raise the consciousness and stay strong and positive.
Mm,
And as long as we do that, we then just raise the vibration, and then we can feel it that, and people can feel around us, and that's what we need. There's enough of negative vibrations, and we leave it to those who cannot do anything about it, but we know better than that.
for
Don't we?
sure. And it stays with me as well, the transmodernity. That's what we need, because yeah, yes to technology, yes to modernizing, but yes to everything, the good things that we learn from the past, and from the roots, and from the land, and from nature. And I love that. Definitely, I need to watch that movie. Actually, I have not. So yeah, I also invite everybody. That must be amazing. So thank you, Irena, for reminding us that.
Thank you so
Okay.
much, Monica. This was a great
No.
pleasure to share with you, and thank you for your invitation once again. And I hope your audience has enjoyed it.
I'm
And yeah,
sure. Yes, it will be there, and it's live right now. But whoever is connected, and if not, it will be recorded in the Rosita and Pepa Facebook page or in our website. So you can have it and have access to Irena's amazing story, experience, and Terra Mera. So thank you, Irena. Hope to see
thank
you
you.
soon, and have a good
Thank
night for you. I know it's already probably
you.
later.
You take care.
Bye
All the best.
bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye bye.